Welcome to Dog Life Radio.
Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to Dog Life Radio, episode number 39 in the books. I am your host, Rossi Giuggio. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We've got ourselves part 2, I guess. Last time we got together, spent some time talking about building a healthier you, and that was part 1. So we spoke a bit about what I am going to affectionately call the Giuggio Theorem, because Pythagoras had his, and now I've got mine. The Giuggio Theory. This is all based on the premise. There we go. This is all based on the premise of lifestyle plus nutrition equals what you see in the mirror every day. That is your results. A plus B equals C. And you are C, my people, my folks. That's what it is. And what I mean by that, nutrition, pretty straightforward. That's everything you're eating, everything you're putting into your digestive tract, supplements and natural foods, or unnatural, I guess. And then lifestyle. Break that down as sleep, your movement, which we spoke about at length last time. That's your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Neat. Just your non-exercise activities, all your other movement. So sleep, movement, and exercise. So last time we spoke just very, very quickly about exercise. And since the last time, I've seen a couple of questions. I'm involved in a couple of different Facebook groups about fitness, health, and wellness, and there are tons of questions all about exercise. So I figured, maybe I'll just spend a little bit of time this week talking a little bit more about exercise and what role it plays in that overall theory of how to get to be a better you, building a healthier you. So, but before I get into that, we're going to take a pause for the cause. We'll come back with the podcast that you should be listening to.
Whoa, how did we get on this podcast?
I'm not sure, but I like it here.
It's pretty great, but we should probably tell everyone about our own podcast, Fueled by Deathcast.
Hell yeah. Comes out every Thursday from the Death Wish Coffee Company, the world's strongest coffee.
Every week you can hear me, the Incredible Jeff.
And me, the amazing D-Man.
And we talk about new science discoveries, breaking news from Death Wish Coffee, and we welcome a special guest from rock stars to astronauts and ask them all the question, what fuels you?
The podcast is available right on deathwishcoffee.com and wherever podcasts are found, including iTunes, Google Music, Stitcher, and more.
Plus, you can now watch it live on the Death Wish Coffee Company page on Facebook and watch all our videos over on YouTube.
All right. Now you know all about Fueled by Deathcast and how you can listen to it.
But first, let's finish this podcast.
Let's get back to the show.
All right. Welcome back, folks. Okay, so the podcast you should be listening to this week, I'm going to be promoting Mind Pump, health, fitness, exercise podcast. I listen to it almost all of their episodes. I'll listen to. Sometimes they put out 2 to 3 episodes a week, and combined with all the other downloads I get, sometimes it's tough to keep up with them, but Mind Pump number 840, How to Lose Fat. Good one. This was definitely worth a listen to. I love the setup that they've got going on at Mind Pump. And coincidentally enough, they're also featured on the Total Human Optimization podcast this week. So I just happened to see those come through on my phone as I was prepping my notes for this one to make sure I got the episode correct of 840. And I saw they're going to be on Total Human Optimization. So just for the record, I was going to promote them anyway, so screw you on it. I got them first. So nonetheless, check them out. Episode 840. You're going to take a look in their backlog. There's a lot of good content there. And talk a lot about everything surrounding health, fitness, exercise programs, adding weight, recovering from injuries. It gets a bit scientific at points, and then it's definitely not bro science, that's for sure. But it definitely, you can take away a lot of nuggets from these episodes. So have a listen. A good show. All right, now that we got that out of the way, we can get to work on what we are here to talk about this week. We're here to talk about exercise and what role it plays in how to build a healthier you. I mean, basically, that's what it all comes down to. Last time I spoke a bit about making sure you understand why you're working out, why you're exercise, why you're dieting, or adjusting your caloric intake, your macronutrients and your micronutrients. Why are you adjusting the food? Why? What's the whole point? So this week we're going to start off with something very, very similar. I saw a question pop up about how many times a week do you work out? How many times a week should I work out? And that's all it was. And it's really funny because you'll see these things come into various shows, whether it's the Dolce to Mike Pump, or Mike Mind Pump, Mark Bell's Powercast. Doesn't matter. It can go to any of these things. You'll see these questions, but there's a lot of context being missed. You need to understand there's no answer to that. It's all about what your goals are. You need to understand, why am I doing this in the first place? So before you ask how many times should I work out, how many times a week should I hit different body parts, that's not the first question. The first question is, what is the point? What are the results that you're looking to achieve? What do you want to do? Are you training for a specific event, like a Spartan race or something to that effect? Are you training for a bodybuilding show, a physique competition, a strongman or a strong woman show, powerlifting, whatever it is? That is all going to be part of the puzzle as you piece together your overall protocol for the whole thing, lifestyle and nutrition, to get those results. Because if those results are to lift a shit ton of weight in a powerlifting meet, you're going to have a very different approach than somebody who wants to lose 40 pounds of extra fat that they've got going on, right? So you peel it back. I know it's a lot, I know. But if you peel it back and you start off with what is your overall goal? What are you doing this for? Then your next step is you need to track it. You need to understand, how do I know I get to that point of victory? How do I know we won? What is the point of improvement? You know that it's pretty straightforward. If you're talking about, one of my goals is I want to bench press 300 pounds, 400 pounds, 500 pounds, whatever it is. You want to complete a Spartan race in a certain time frame. Those are pretty straightforward. There are metrics or numbers tied to them. It gets a little bit more squishy or ambiguous if you're thinking, I just want to get in better shape. That's a tough one. To you, what does that mean? Does it mean when you're looking in the mirror, you don't see the love handles hanging over the sides of the jeans? Is it a completely shredded six-pack? Is it being able to go out and help be the assistant soccer coach for your kids' soccer team and be able to run around without feeling like you're going to pass out? Whatever it is, that's okay. That's what the important thing to you. That's the most important piece. Understanding what your goal is. Now, from that piece, you need to baseline where you are. I hate to sound too much channeling my inner continuous improvement guy here, but I mean, you have to arm yourself with statistics. Check out my man Scott Reed over at Focus Performance. That's Focus Performance UK. His website, he's got all kinds of great blogs on health, nutrition, exercise, a ton of great information, but he's got a good one on there about arm yourself with stats. Anyway, the inner continuous improvement guy, when you want to improve something, you need to know where you are. You understand where you're going, you know where you are, then you can map yourself there. It gets back to that definition of what a coach is, right? A coach is somebody who's going to help you on that journey. They're helping you get from point A to point B. You understand where point B is because that's the goal. You've done that, right? We just spoke about that. Point A is, where are you right now? So if you want to complete that Spartan race, well, what was your time last one? Tracking it, understanding it, body fat percentages, BMIs, whatever they may be, the amount of weight you can lift, the amount of repetitions you can do on certain things, being able to complete a full WOD, being able to do a full jiu-jitsu practice, whatever it may be, start to baseline and track it. It's difficult because it takes detail, attention to detail, and organization. And you're thinking, oh, man, how do I do it? Well, the basic ways to do it are just with a pad and pencil. When I used to train from powerlifting, I had an Excel spreadsheet that I use, and I tracked in that. That's a little fancy, but generally it would all start off on pad and paper, and I would write everything out. And then once I got comfortable with the plan or the program for my 12-week peaking cycle, as I got geared up for that contest, I'd then put it in an Excel, and I'd work from it from there. But the tracking thing is extremely important. You can use paper, you can use like I said, Excel, some computer pieces. There's a ton of applications out there, and candidly, I've tested out a shit ton of them in the past couple of months. Right now, I am using Stacked app for iOS. I think it might be available for Android as well. The cool things about this one is, well, it's free. I don't like paying for apps, and maybe that makes me cheap. I don't know. But it's a free app. You can load in it as many workouts as you would like. You can add in exercises if they're not already in their library. And then you can track your progress over time. A lot of the other ones that I've tried limit the amount of exercise routines that you can put in without having to go to a pay for premium one. I was using, I think it was Gains, which was a really cool one, but it only limited you to 3 workout routines. And then you had to pay if you wanted to add in more. So I'm checking this one out. I'm going to try it for a little while just because it's extremely helpful. Because not only do you want to track the baseline of where you're starting, but you want to track your progress as you start to design your program. And we'll talk a little bit about how to design a program in a minute or two. But once you have that, you need to be able to track it from day to day or week to week, because you want to be able to know, well, last time I used this much weight and I struggled with it, or last time it was super easy. So now I made a note of that. Now I can continue to improve and push the limits of this time. You may remember that if it's only a couple of days ago, but if you hadn't done a specific exercise for a certain period of time, a week or two, if you're anything like me, you will not remember it. I won't. That's for damn sure. So there we go. You understand where you want to go. You understand where you are, and you're now tracking your process. Let's talk a little bit about exercise, how you can go about designing a program for yourself so you understand what you're trying to accomplish and where you want to go. There's a lot of different ways you could break down exercise. I think I will approach it today by saying there are 2 types, and there's overlap between it. So, there's aerobic exercise and anaerobic exercise. And you can Google it and you'll find a much more scientific definition of this. But aerobic exercise basically requires air. That's aerobics. Anaerobics does not require the air to complete the exercise. So when you're thinking about it, duration plays a part. So the longer duration the activity or the exercise, that's more likely aerobic exercises. And also inclined to raise your heart rate. Sometimes you can associate it with cardiovascular exercise, traditional or historical cardiovascular, long distance running, biking for a long period of time, anything along those lines. Those are your aerobic exercises. Now, anaerobic they're marked by a shorter duration, bursts of energy, bursts of muscle contractions. You think about weights. When you're lifting weights, the air that you're breathing isn't necessarily required to perform the contraction. You're exhaling or something to that effect while you're pushing. Sometimes you can hold your breath. Probably not a good idea, but you can. So you get the gist. So those are the 2 different types of exercises. Like I said, there's a bit of overlap because you can start to perform anaerobic exercises with interval training. High intensity interval training can definitely improve your overall cardiovascular health as well. So we're not going to get hung up too much on the terms. And I really think that there is a lot of focus on these fancy terms for different ways to exercise. And it's extremely confusing, when you start hearing about all these things like periodization and hypertrophy and HIIT or interval training, Metcon, and all this stuff. I'm just going to talk to you in some basics here. When we're talking about training, you can associate it with the 2 things we were just talking about, aerobic and anaerobic, but we're going to focus on in overall shape, focusing on anaerobic exercises, free weights, machines, and then everything that is part of those things. You can think about all of the barbells, all of the dumbbells, kettlebells, and all the Nautilus and Smith and hammer strength cables, all that kind of stuff. All of that stuff is on the table for today. There's nothing wrong with running, sprinting, hill sprints, stairs, and all that stuff. But most of the questions that I'm hearing, I'm seeing and hearing surround getting in better shape overall. And again, there's a lot of focus on losing weight. I guess not a huge surprise with that, but and in my personal belief, that's great to get up on the cardio machine and run to lose weight, cardio to burn a fat. Yep, that's fantastic. Personally feel that if you program a weightlifting schedule or routine properly, it can be more effective than just getting on that bike. It's more exciting. I get bored jumping on a bike. Now, if you're talking about going out and going mountain biking or, running in the woods and all that stuff, that's great. But we're not talking about that. My opinion is putting together a great program with those different apparati that I was just talking about. Whew, mouthful there, right? Okay. So some of the things to think about when you're putting together your program, again, goes back to what are you looking to do? Are you looking to add on some muscle, like build strength, tone, lean, get yourself in that type of a shape where you're kind of burning down the fat. So basically, if you're thinking about those power, like you want to build power, you're thinking about repetitions in that 3 range, 3 to 5. That way you can really focus on it, and you're taking longer rests in between, right? Minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, depending upon how, if you're doing heavy triples or maybe even getting to doubles or peaking like that, you're going to take a couple of minutes in between each set. Looking to put on some size, you're talking about in that 8, 10, maybe 12, 8 to 10 range. You're going to come down a little bit in terms of the rest in between sets, not as much as the power. So if you think about it this way, like you exert yourself fully to lift that super heavy weight, you want to rest up, get your body back to almost full strength, and then hit it again. Now with the building some size, you want to pull back a little bit on the weight and get going a little bit more frequent. Now, you could probably guess where I'm going next. If you're looking to really tone up and kind of get into that more endurance space where you want to get your body into a leaner spot, that's where you're looking at 15 repetitions. You're talking about 15 upwards to 20 and less time in between your sets. So those are basic premises. You can apply those to any of these, to barbells, dumbbells, whatever, cable, doesn't matter. And those are the basic principles that kind of oversee all of what you're doing. More repetitions, less rest in between. You're going to be able to lean yourself out. You're going to hit that cardio even more too. You're going to be burning a lot more fat. You're going to be burning a lot more calories anyway as you're doing those types of exercises. Now, is one better than the other in terms of free weight and machines? It's getting to the nuts and bolts of things. It all gets back to what you're trying to do. Personally, I like free weights. I like dumbbells. I like kettlebells. I don't like using machines much at all. Reason being is I feel most machines are designed to isolate body parts. And if you're not looking to specifically attack your thighs or your, the inner pectorals or whatever, then, hitting a machine's just, you're going to have to hit 20 machines just to get a full chest or a full arm workout. I like compound movements, 2-for-1 type of a thing. Fantastic stuff. You're doing that with the free weights, with your kettlebells. You can even do them, you're doing with dumbbells as well. Now, I'm speaking in generalities here, broad brush, but those are my favorites. If you're taking yourself to put together a program for yourself, I start with a lot more compound movements first. Then I move into your not necessarily isolation, but your accessory movements afterwards. So if you think about it in terms of shoulders, I love doing push press. And I alternate with more of a strict military press, standing, just because I feel like I'm not in there to completely isolate the shoulders. I want to engage all of the shoulders, the arms, my core, everything. Stabilize my legs, stabilizers for the full movement. And I'll do that for my first set, and I'll hit 4 or 5 sets, whatever if I'm at, I'll rotate repetitions, and I'll talk about periodization in a minute, but then I'll add in all of my subsequent or accessory movements after that for my shoulders. And then I'll add in another piece. I'm working out 3 days a week lifting weights heavily right now, where I do shoulders and tries, I think. And one day I'll do legs and chest another day, and then I'll do back and bis on another day. In between there, I'm putting in heavy circuits with kettlebell workouts, and I put together body weight, explosive, and core movements on those days in between the heavy weights. I can talk about that too in a second. So that's what I'm talking about with compound movements first, accessories next. You're going to build out covering all of your body parts. Generally speaking, you're going to want to hit your body parts around twice a week. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do, in my example, push press shoulders on Monday and again on Thursday. No, it just means hitting your shoulders using a variety of different exercises twice a week is optimal for getting the most benefits out of yourself. Now, that is, let's see. That's also painting with a broad brush. Again, those are general terms. You have to also listen to your body. Some body parts, sometimes your bis and tris, may not react well to going twice a week. Sometimes once a week might be enough for your arms. So you don't want to overdo it, but you do want to start and baseline and monitor your progress. See how you're feeling. See how fast your body parts are recovering. Your legs may need to get hit 3 times a week in order to get optimal results. Now, I mentioned a term called periodization. Basically what this is, and again, you can Google it, and I'm sure you can find like a 20-page dissertation on what periodization is. But periodization is basically just rotating stuff. It can be rotating the repetitions most frequently in that space. So you're talking about if you're doing, let's just use the example of the push press, because I like those, and we're just talking about it. So for a 2 to 3 week time frame, I may be doing sets of 3, and then after that, I'll move to sets of 8, and then from there, after 2 to 3 weeks of sets of 8, go to 2 to 3 weeks of sets of 12 to 15. And continue to rotate like that. That's periodization. It's just you're shifting the amount of load on the body, heavy, light, lighter, whatever way you want to rationalize it and internalize it, but it's just rotating things around. Periodization can happen over 2 to 3 week time frames. You can also shift things up in the middle of your workout. You can do heavy main compound movements like heavy push press, and then go to sets of 10 to 12 of your supplemental or accessory lifts also. I'm trying a little bit of that right now, just because, doing something like side lateral raises or front raises or something like that, doing sets of 3 of that, it's, kind of silly. So it's just my personal opinion for myself, not for everybody. But when you hear periodization, that's all it is you're doing a set workout for a period of time, and then you're rotating it to another one for a period of time. Periodization. Pretty obvious, I guess, right? Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about today is I had mentioned how right now what I'm doing is on, let's just say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm lifting weights, traditional weights. Like today I did legs, I did squats and a bunch of leg exercises, and then I did some chest exercises. I did incline bench and so forth. Tomorrow, I'm not going to lift weights. I'm going to go in and I'm going to set up some circuits. I'll go in for a run to warm up, and then I'll hit circuits of 3 different exercises, and I'll usually do 3 of them, and they vary in terms of repetitions and approach. Very similar to CrossFit WODs. But I use the technique of the planning that I like to start with a body weight, preferably a explosive or plyometric type of a movement for the first movement. The second movement becomes a weighted movement, something with, kettlebells usually. Of course, it can be anything that's, you're adding a vest, chains, whatever, bands. And then the last one I like to do is more of a core movement. You always feel it's great to continue to work on your core, right? So my circuits are made up of those 3 movements: an explosive or plyometric type of a movement, Box jumps are one of my favorites. Burpees suck ass, but I rotate those in too. Ropes, the battle ropes or something like that you can do. Jump rope, double unders, any of that stuff. So you get the picture. So we do that. Like an example might be I'll do 10 box jumps. Then I'll move into 10 kettlebell swings or a kettlebell flow, because sometimes I'll do like a kettlebell rows to snatch to press, and then I'll do 5 to 8 of those per arm, and then I'll immediately move into a core exercise. And the core exercises can be sit-ups, can be twists, can be toe to bar, whatever ones you prefer to do. And I like to set up 3 different circuits, usually 4 to 5 rounds a piece. And those are my off days. So during those, I had mentioned before that it's good to hit your muscle groups generally about 2 times a week. So if I'm doing kettlebell swings, I'm hitting my back, I'm hitting my arms. I add in kettlebell lunges, all that type of a thing to hit my legs, usually twice. So I'm hitting my muscle groups at least twice a week by adding in those types of circuits. So explosive, plyometric, some type of weighted movement, and then hit your core. You can build your workouts around those, and then supplement those with traditional weights, or you can continue to just use those types of workouts as your main portion of what you're trying to achieve, if it fits in with what your goals are. So last time we met, I said I wasn't even going to talk about exercising, but now I just spent the full episode talking about it. But hopefully it's helped a little bit. If you have any questions, always just feel free to write into the show, dogliferadio@yahoo.com. Hope you enjoyed it. Next time we'll come back. We'll attack that monster of a topic of nutrition, which is all the food and all the supplements if you take them, and how those can factor into achieving the better you. So here's to building a healthier you.